Hi everybody. Today we're going to make some prints, which is kind of like making a stamp. But we're going to make ours have to do with something called the Harlem Renaissance. The Harlem Renaissance started when black people in the southern United States in the 1920s started moving up north in something called the Great Migration. Black people came from small towns in the southern United States and moved to cities for jobs. When they came to these big cities, like Harlem in New York, they really changed the whole culture of the United States. Music changed, art changed, poetry and literature changed. Black people were able to express themselves in ways they hadn't been able to before. That really made a sense of pride and identity within the community of Harlem and out into the rest of the United States. Here are some prints that were made during the Harlem Renaissance. Print is kind of like a stamp, and we're going to make prints in this project inspired by the Harlem Renaissance. Now, since music was a big part of the Harlem Renaissance, we are going to make instruments in our prints. Now, the first thing we're going to do is make our backgrounds that we're going to print on. Here is one way, one option you can do it is to take this tissue paper, the bleeding kind, where the colors come out, and paint it with water so all the colors come out. But if you have another idea on how to do your background, you want to do watercolors or use the bingo dotters or however you want to do your background is going to be up to you. This is just an idea. This is what I did with mine. I just painted tissue paper with water and then let it dry. After it dried, I just took off the tissue paper and all the colors were left down there. This is an option, and this is what I did with mine. Now I've got these 4x6 printing plates, and I've traced out a rectangle of the same size. I'll talk about the printing plate later, but that's for our drawing. So a very large part of the Harlem Renaissance was the music, so we're going to think instruments when we're going to make something like this. Now think of your favorite instrument. You're going to draw that in the middle. I am using a picture from my iPad. If you are in class, I will let you use your iPads, but also I will have some pictures out just in case you want to look at one of those. So I'm drawing my instrument on my paper. This stuff really looks good if you add a lot of lines, add some details, take it slow. Think about the placement on the paper. You want to leave some space on the outside of the instrument for some designs we're going to put in later, and I'll talk about that in a second. Now, coming out of my saxophone, I am going to draw some notes, like there's music coming out of it. But when I draw them, I'm going to draw them backwards. This is because when you print something like this, whatever you print will be the opposite of what you get at the end. And I'm going to show that to you in a little bit. But remember, I'm making my notes backwards. Also do this if you put any letters or anything like that. Now I'm going to start dividing my background into shapes. I am doing a radial design. Radial just means working from the middle to the outside of the paper, but you can divide your paper however you would like. Just make sure the background is divided into shapes somehow. And don't draw over your instrument when you're doing this. Now in each shape, I'm going to do a different design. You can use different lines, shapes, or patterns. I will have some sheets out in class if you need ideas for this, but you can also come up with your own. So I'm adding zigzags and swirls and different kind of shape designs in each different shape. Once you do a design in one shape, don't do it again in another. Switch it up. Give it some variety. These kind of styrofoam prints look great with a lot of line work. So fill up the page. Take some time with it. I bet you'll be surprised what you can do. Now let's transfer our drawings onto our printing plates. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out my drawing, which has been traced as the same size as my styrofoam printing plate. So it should match up perfectly, and I am going to, using one piece of tape, just tape it down so I can lift it up and down and check my work as I'm tracing over it. Now I'm just going to trace over my lines. I'm using a pencil, kind of dull, and I am pushing pretty hard, not so hard that I'm just ripping my papers to shreds. You will sometimes rip your paper. I did that several times when I was doing this, but it stays together enough. Go really slow with this. Taking some extra time at this phase will really make it look better. You want to be really deliberate with it. Play with your line work a little bit. Make some areas thicker than others, make some lines thin. Really make sure you get in on all of the details. Take your time with it. You will be more happy with it if you do. I just use the one piece of tape so I can lift it up every once in a while and check my work, make sure I've hit everywhere. And I'll make sure that I can see the lines in the styrofoam. Now, pretty much every time I do one of these, I will go over some of the lines just on the styrofoam without the paper, just to make sure that the line is really in it. But don't push too hard that you're going through the styrofoam. You will get a feel for how hard you can push on this, both into the paper and into the styrofoam. Now that we have our printing plate done, let's print. I am using printing ink, but acrylic paint will work in a pinch. You kind of lose some of the details, so this works better. I'm using these masonite boards, but I also have these plexiglass boards I use, and you can even use something like a lunch tray if you needed to. Now the top of my board where I put the ink is called the well. You don't roll it over the well. I'm going to roll my roller up to the well, and then I'm going to drag the ink backwards. I'm not rolling over the well because then you'll get too much ink. Now listen to this sound. It sounds like it's kind of sticking. That's the sound you want. You really kind of get a feel for it after a while. It also kind of looks like it's kind of tacking up on you. So look for that. The most common mistake people make when they do this is they use too much ink. The second most common mistake is they don't use enough ink. So it's really about the perfect amount, and you will get a feel for it. So I'm going to take the ink from my roller and I'm going to roll it onto my styrofoam printing plate. Now I'm going to grab the paper that I made before. I'm only using half of it, and I folded it twice, so 4 prints will fit on a piece of paper. I made you do 2 of these in case you mess up. Now I'm going to press this down. I'm pushing at the top, bottom, and the middle. Massage it in. Sometimes I use a popsicle stick and kind of scrape it in, but hold it in one place. You don't want it to move. Then I will pull it off and see how my print looks. Not bad. Do you notice that the notes I made backwards are now forwards? So in class, I'll have several trays with different colors, but here I'm not going to do that. It is fun sometimes to put just half of the well one color, and then when you roll up to it, and don't roll over the well again, but you can make gradients and stuff, and that's kind of fun to work with. The gradient is just slowly moving from one color to another. But I'm going to keep doing the same thing. I'm going to make prints in the other 3 areas of the paper I prepared. You can use whatever colors you'd like. It's kind of fun to mix it up a little bit. Now, I hope you liked learning about the Harlem Renaissance. I think it's a really cool part of our history in America, and I really like the art from it. I hope you enjoyed learning about it too, and I hope you like doing this project, because I had a lot of fun with it, and I really can't wait to see the kind of prints that you guys come up with. Bye, everybody. This was Mr. Walden.